So there's a common question I frequently get from students and people who are interested in a career in counseling, mental health, psychology, social work, all of the above. And they seek me out to ask me, why did you retire, Taylor? What's going on? Do I need to go through all of this academic rigor and licensing and student loan debt to do what you do? We're going to switch gears today. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Taylor. We're not going to talk about dating. We're going to talk about career. So I get this common question asked quite frequently from students who are either studying social work, counseling, psychology, and generally want to be in a mental health related field. And so they're wondering, Taylor, why did you retire? You're pretty young to retire, and it's pretty difficult to just let go of your licenses. I made the call to let my licenses expire in April of 2019, and it wasn't an easy choice, but I did it. So, do I need to do that? Do I need to go through all that in order to do what you do? So this is actually a pretty complicated answer, but I thought, hey, maybe I'll tell you about it because it could be helpful if you're considering the same thing. Well, first of all, you have to know what you're in it for. If you're just sort of going through the motions of school because that's what's expected of you, or you're just kind of on this inertia train of getting through all of the achievements and trying to get to the end of it and accruing a whole lot of debt and perhaps wasting some valuable time. The reality is these professions don't necessarily make you a ton of money. So if you're going into it for money, think again. You're going to be paying off your student loans for way longer than you're going to be making a surplus of money. Now, if you want to be in private practice, that's a great idea in theory, but things have gotten so complicated now with red tape and licensing and business costs. Depending on your jurisdiction, it's different everywhere, but you have to really consider what it is you are trying to achieve for you. What is the lifestyle that you're striving for, and what do you envision for yourself 15 years down the road? Okay, so other than the student loans and other than the red tape and licensing, it's really important to realize you don't need a license in order to help people. You need to help people in order to help people. So if you're the type of person that people reach out to because you're really easy to talk to, you listen well, you care, you give great advice, you're objective, you have good judgment. Those are wonderful behavioral traits, wonderful personality traits that will fit well with the helping careers. Because you have to love what you do if you're going to sacrifice for it, if it's not going to be paying the bills especially. But ultimately, everyone should be doing something that they really enjoy and look forward to doing. Now, a lot of times that can be just because it's of service, it's needed, it does pay the bills. It doesn't have to be some ultimate passion and purpose, but it usually comes along the way if you feel like you are a capable person doing this job well, and it's allowing you to have access to the things that are important to you. So in that case, business. Business is really at the crux of a lot of what private practitioners do. And ultimately now, I'm a consultant and I work basically like a freelancer online. So there's been a lot of changes in the free market, with technology and how everything is evolving into a global marketplace. So you need to really cultivate those skills of helping people, being a good leader, being a good listener, having good judgment, being personable, but also being articulate, being able to connect with people and explain yourself well so that you can help people solve problems. But on the psychological end of things, you have to do a lot of study, whether it's formal or not, in the way that the mind works, in the way that emotions work, what the psychological foundations are, behavioral foundations, social foundations. There's a lot involved, which is why typically, traditionally, we've gone through the formal process of school. So what I suggest is, school is great. It's fun, it's educational, you learn a lot, you expand your mind, you meet people, your opportunities come your way. But the licensing is what I have issue with, not because I think it's all bad, but I don't think it's always necessary. And a lot of people fall into the trap of licensing when they don't really need to. So if you realize that, maybe you just want to have a consulting business and you want to be good at what you do, but you don't want to be a healthcare provider. You don't want to take insurance. You don't want to work in the system. So any of the institutions or the different facilities that would require you to be a licensed mental health professional, if you don't want to work for any of those, then you probably don't need to go through the licensing process. So if you can get a business background, that's going to be really helpful. And if you want to work online, learn how to work online, and you can work remotely. You can work like a digital nomad, or you can work at home. And it can be a really great tool for stay-at-home mothers or just people who like to have their flexibility and freedoms. And so you can gain all that knowledge and use it and be really good at what you do and actually potentially make a lot more money than if you were in formal practice. And so that's where things have moved to. And I think it's really important that people are asking these questions. So I want to encourage you to really reflect and genuinely consider, what is it that you're shooting for? What is that vision that you have for your life down the road? What suits you? What works for you? If you want to work in the system, if you want to work for a hospital, if you want to work for a school, any of those more formal institutions, absolutely. Even if you want to be that private therapist working in private practice, just know what the red tape is, because sometimes it can be quite complicated. And so for me, I was kind of faced with that decision in my jurisdiction when it was impossible to work online and still maintain the license, because they required you to be tied to a brick and mortar facility. And so if that's the same case for you in your area, then it might just be easier and make more sense to go a different route. So I encourage you to get business in your background, learn. You don't have to get an MBA either. You can learn on your own, learn online. There's lots of courses available. There's lots of resources out there. But ultimately, you want to make sure that you are literally good at what you do, that you're helping people solve the problems and giving people the value that they need in order to be a successful business person. And ultimately, just remember, you don't need a degree or a license in order to help people. You need to help people to help people. Just be honest about what your credentials are, be honest about what your background is, and what makes you good at what you do. So basically, you're going to be accruing that social proof and really, gaining experience each and every time you work with somebody on like a grassroots level, basically. So it can seem a little bit daunting, but I want to encourage people who are even in the formal education process that they absolutely should be continuing to gain all that experience and knowledge. But before they get hooked into the licensing, think twice and know what you're dealing with, what you're in for, and what's going to be expected of you. But that's my 2 cents. So I hope that was helpful to you. Definitely leave a comment below. Tell me your thoughts. Ask me your questions. And if you want to, you can reach out and we can have a 15-minute discovery call on me. I'm happy to speak with you further. I do consultations one-on-one. I work with groups online, and that's been really successful. And I've also started a matchmaking service for my clients only at this time. So you can look at my website and get more information there, or just reach out and talk to me below. Ciao.